Sometimes the most interesting architectural challenges come from the most unexpected places. When you think about it, boats and buildings share many features in common. They're both essentially containers for living and working, but boats have their own set of unique features and constraints that make them really interesting from a design perspective.
This particular project started when a viewer reached out to share their Dutch barge with me. Built in 1910 in the Netherlands, it began its life as a fishing trawler and spent decades navigating the waters before being transformed into someone's much-loved home in the 1980s. The current owner contacted me after buying it in something of a blank canvas state. The 80s home interior had been subject to an excited bout of DIY, which unfortunately hadn't got further than a haphazard strip out. So this created the opportunity to start afresh, and I think there's something quite poetic about a vessel that's weathered over a century of use, now being ready for its next transformation. So this is the first time I've ever been asked to design for a boat, but it's exactly the kind of challenge that I love to tackle. I don't have any specific knowledge about boats and their technical constraints, but this was presented to me as a home on water, so that's how we're going to treat it. We essentially have two areas to work with, either side of the engine room. There's this little space that's accessed via its own steep ladder, and then the larger principal space that takes up just over half the length of the boat. Currently, the layout brings you straight into the kitchen, which then kind of merges into the living room area beyond. And past that, a storage wall has been used to partition off the bedroom at the end. We know we have to be efficient in our design, and there's no getting around the single central route of circulation running from one end to the other. But we also know that there will be a couple living on this barge who are both artists, so they'll be spending long periods of time here living and working. Creating some kind of flexibility to the space therefore seemed like a goal worth aiming for, as we wanted to imagine them being able to open the whole space up if they wanted to, or sequentially close areas off to create sort of progressive layers of privacy. If you're drawn to the creativity of these videos and you're looking for creative outlets, I can highly recommend Craftsy, who have kindly sponsored this video, because they offer over 2,000 carefully guided classes on skills like crocheting, sewing, drawing, and baking. Personally, I find creative activities good for my mental health and self-esteem. They're relaxing to do, and you're left with something long-lasting. Very rarely and very specially, I get a gift from someone which is handmade, and those gifts always stand out a mile and show so much care and love. So I've started making this crochet baby hat for my friend who's expecting her first child. I'd also like to make one of these kit bags for my pens and think I could do a few more as gifts as well. And I love the idea of making a quilt with my children over a period of time, because it's one of those things you'd hold on to forever and have shared memories of. Craftsy is an online community of makers, doers, and DIYers. It's for curious people who never want to stop learning, and it's for you if you're at any skill level, beginner, hobbyist, or expert. There are always new classes being released, and you can connect with other makers in the online community. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the video description will get a full year of premium membership to Craftsy for only $1.49, which is an incredible offer, so please don't miss that chance. So obviously the entrance door can't change, so we have that as a fixed point on the boat, and that takes you into the engine room. From there, you can either go down into the single room to one side, or enter the main long space to the other side. What we wanted to imagine was how you spend time in a house and how you move through it when you have guests around. There are sequences of rooms that create layers of privacy. So your most intimate and private spaces are usually your personal bathroom and bedroom, and they're usually the furthest away from your most public-facing living space. At least that's generally the ideal. With that in mind, we knew that we would put the bathroom and bedroom at the very end. Then we knew that as a couple, when they're alone, they might want to feel like they're in a spacious home. So having all of the space open sometimes could feel really nice and airy. But when you have guests come, you want a different kind of space. We imagine that the kitchen can entertain already, probably in the briefest way. You could have a cup of tea in the kitchen, or perhaps you have a guest who's going to stay for longer, and so they stay for a meal. So then you have the dining space. But maybe they're not close friends, then you want to be able to close off your leisure spaces from your entertaining spaces. So that means you want to be able to close off your living room and close off your bedroom and bathroom, but keep the kitchen and dining area open. Or maybe you and your partner want to have a meal and you want to close off the kitchen because you don't want to look at any mess you've left there, So that means you want to close off that side, and after having a meal, you want to go and hang out on the sofa and watch a film. So you want to connect those spaces. Or maybe you want to close off the dining space from the living space, and then maybe one of you goes to bed first, so you want to close off the bedroom from the living space. So what you're ending up with is 5 different spaces, which have the potential to be used in different sequences. And the way to achieve that has got to be through a flexibility of opening or closing off these spaces to each other. That's the concept we want to work with. We know the order of spaces in the principal area, and then that leaves this end for some storage, but also a study or desk space. Because again, when you've got a couple living and working in the same space, sometimes you can really benefit from being in different rooms when you need to work. This provides separation, and you've got this really nice curve at the end here, which isn't being used, so we can make the most of that. So I'll take you through the spaces sequentially now, and you can see how this works. Here we come into the engine room, which you can see hasn't much changed from how it currently is, because we don't consider this as part of the living spaces. It's just a purely functional space. If we go down into this small end first, you come into the small study, where we use that curved wall to form a desk and some storage. And we've created some cupboards at the back here, which contain the staircase to one side. You go back up through the engine room and come down into the centre of the kitchen, which has this really nice open feel with the windows on either side. So this is how we approached the separation of the spaces in the main body of the boat. We decided to use a system of flexible sliding screens that can run on tracks in the ceiling and follow the curves of the boat to curve around and close off or open up the spaces. We felt that visually this picks up the timber of an old boat interior. It's got that curve which has a certain nautical feel to it, but it also functions to create some elegance and a smooth function to really highlight this flexible layout. And with all of the flexible partitions back, you get this nice view all the way through to the end of the boat. You come into the dining space, and you can slide this screen round to just close off the kitchen space. And that just changes this space slightly, opening up some more features while you close away others. That connects naturally with the living space, but if you go in there, you again can close off the dining space and just connect with the bedroom space. Again, the bedroom space just closes off in the same way, and so you're in that completely private area at the end of the boat. There you can close off all the other spaces, and you've got this nice sanctuary of a bedroom. There are some shallow areas within the layout that could accommodate some cupboards here for putting clothes and objects and books, and they could even fit in around the porthole to keep that really nice feature. Pulling back one final screen, you come through it into a bathroom space, and we've just picked up one of the curves again in the shower. There's a bit more storage in here, and it makes for a comfortable ensuite. So I'll just take you back through all of those spaces again, so you can imagine living here, moving in and out of these separate but open spaces on your little houseboat. If you have an unusual space you'd like me to design, do send it to me via my website, or if you're planning a project and would like my help with your designs, I offer very accessible consultations. Or of course, I can work with you to reimagine your whole existing building from scratch in a full concept design like this one. See you next time.